much. I'm happy to be invited as one of the plenary presenters at the ICADI. I'm so privileged to be here today, and as a graduate of Covenant University, I feel honored and happy. I'm really delighted. Every time I look at what I do at Springboard, I see the hand of Covenant University and I see the hand of Bishop David Oyedepo on it. Covenant University is highly instrumental to the work that I do today, so I'm happy to be here this evening. So I'm talking about innovative agriculture, reshaping food chain, retail, and marketing. I understand that the time is very short, so I'll be a little fast. Quickly, let me talk a little about what I do at Springboard, though the citation was powerfully explained. And so Springboard recruits small-scale farmers from across 8 states in Nigeria. Those farmers who are at the bottom pyramid. And so we provide training, support for them, and we buy back what they produce and sell to international and local clients. And then we give back premium to farmers, and they are always happy to partner with us. And so our farmers grow rice, cacao, vegetables, corn, and plantain, and some other fruit. And then we also convert the plantain that we buy from our farmers into plantain chips, edible, nutritious plantain chips that is sold across Nigeria and West Africa. And we're also involved in some other agribusinesses. We have fruits and crop nursery across our project locations. And so that's what we do. And we have partners within the country and outside the country. So we've been doing this since 2007. That was the year I graduated from Covenant University. And shortly after my NYC, I moved back into Afere to start this full-time. Currently, we have 28 full-time and part-time staff who work with me on this project, and over 3,000 small-scale farmers with us. So to go into my presentation, to talk about reshaping agriculture, we need to look at the basic challenges and opportunities for agricultural development in Africa. So I'm going to make reference to Sub-Saharan Africa during my presentation. So you look at research has it that 65% of Africans' labor force is employed in agriculture, and this the sector also accounts for about 25% of our GDP, and then about $3 billion annually is spent on commercial food imports. And in the last 40 years, we've been informed that Africans' share of the world's agricultural exports have actually fallen from 8 to 2%. And also, you look at the sector, which creates so much jobs, but the industry is very weak. And then we also look at the land, a region with huge agricultural potentials. The land is so rich. Fortunately, Africa has more than 50% of the world's fertile and unused land. And then nearly 450 million hectares of the land is uncultivated. And some of the world's, 24% of the world's large with rain-fed crop, rain-fed crop potential opportunities. And then you look at I mentioned that as well, nearly 450 million hectares is currently uncultivated. And so the Sub-Saharan Africa has scarcely tapped its water resources. We currently use less than 2% of our water resources. And then research has it that total economically exploitable irrigation potential is estimated to be at least 39 million hectares. That's 4 times the current level. And around 4% of arable land is irrigated compared to about 38% in Asia. And that's why we get lots of food from Asia, because they do so much of irrigation. You also look at the crop yield, which is way below potential. And just recently, the World Bank gave a report that by 2030, the food sector on the continent is going to be worth $1 trillion. Currently, they told us is about $313 billion, and that by 2030, the sector will be worth $1 trillion. So all eyes on $1 trillion food market in on the continent. And so that's why you see that a lot of foreigners, and especially Asians, they are coming into the continent to look for opportunities in the sector. And then you look at our land, the Africans' land. Recently, you see that there is a report that says that there's a second scramble for Africa, which has started food security or economic slavery. So a lot of countries are coming into the continent. Look at China, Malaysia, coming into the continent to take more land and then tap into the 16 opportunity that agricultural sector offers. And then with this, agricultural, that sector can also create lots and lots of job opportunities for the African youth. Every year, we are told that 17 million young people in the continent enter the job market. And so I wonder why, if we have 450 million hectares of land that we are not using, and then we have 17 million young people who are entering into the job market, one in the right side, the other in the other hand, if there's a way we could match this together, that will create a huge opportunity to create jobs for our young people. If you come to Nigeria, Nigeria is actually an untapped potential agricultural powerhouse. There's a large internal market. Nigeria has about 200 million people, and then by 2030, it's expected to grow to maybe 480 million people. Labor is cheap. Lots of young people are looking for jobs. They could also tap into that, and so it gives a big opportunity. The agricultural land space, 84 million hectares. Currently, we are using about 40%. What about water? We are told that we have 279 billion surface water, cubic meter surface water, with 3 major rivers in the continent are based in Nigeria. So in the last, since the 60s, there's a big neglect by government, not just government, even the people within the sector, especially after we discovered oil. If you look at the diagram that I have on this slide, if you look at 1960s, those were the times we used to have the Kano granite pyramids, the cocoa pyramids. In fact, we were the largest exporter of shelled granite. We did over 500,000 tons in the 60s with 47% global market share. What about cocoa or cacao? We're the world's second largest producer of cacao in the 60s. We were producing 18% of cocoa to the world, and that was about 450,000 tons yearly. You look at tomato as well. Nigeria was supplying 65% of Africa's tomatoes. Palm oil as well, we contributed 43% to the global market. And agriculture was a pride of Nigerian agriculture, of the economy. Parents were proud, youth were proud. People, in fact, in those days, if you mentioned that your parents were, or maybe your dad was a farmer, it meant that your dad was a rich person, because it was a big pride then. But after discovery of oil, there was a big neglect. Agriculture stopped being a big priority for government. And so if you look at this, granite went from 500,000 tons in the 60s. It fell to 0 in the 1980s. It's a big shock. Cocoa as well, we went from 2nd to 6th largest producer with 88% world cocoa. We were beating Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, but from the 80s, we came down. Now we even produce less than 200,000 tons a year. Tomato as well, we were the largest importer of tomato in Africa, but now we are the largest exporter, but now we are the largest importer of tomato paste. Palm oil as well dropped from 43% to 2.9% in the 80s. And currently, this data was gotten last year. Nigeria spent $5 million a day for rice importation, and that's a big worry for us. So agriculture, that was a big pride. Now it's not seen as cool and sexy for young Nigerians. When I mention anywhere that I'm an African farmer, young people especially seem to laugh at me that, why would you say you're a farmer? Why don't you say you're an agripreneur? I'm actually a farmer. I get my hands dirty. I roll my sleeves, and I'm happy to do that because I see the huge potentials in agriculture. And so going into reshaping agriculture, food chains, and the market, a lot have been happening in the recent years, especially in the last 1 decade. Organizations and people are beginning to realize that the future of food is going to be different. The future of agriculture is going to be different. And so everybody is coming together to see that what is it that will help us to reshape this sector. And so you look into digitalization, things are happening. Young people who never wanted to become farmers are now trying to see how they could use technology to delve into the sector. You look at urban agriculture, smart designs and vertical farms, you find that there are farms in houses now. People are beginning to look at farms in boxes, farms on your balcony. How can you have your home farm, even if your compound there is a small space? So in the next few years, due to explosion in urbanization and population, people are going to be growing their own food in their own homes. And so there are technologies that are going to aid this. You also look at drones and bees. Okay, due to climate change, we are losing millions and millions of bees. And bees are very important in the food that we grow, especially they hate pollination. And so bees are dying, they are going into extinction. And so we're now looking at ways that we can use drones to replace the activities that bees actually perform, or the roles that bees perform on the farm. So apart from that, you can even use drone in so many ways to irrigate your farm, to carry out data report on the farm and the like. So drones are going to be widely used, and then the small drones we see today are going to even become possibly smaller, so that they can become affordable for farmers. And then you look at AI, artificial intelligence, and you look at automation. These are also going to drive reshaping agriculture as we progress in the new decade. And then blockchain technology as well. That's another awesome technology that is going to help to drive change. There's this organization that distributed 60 billion tons of grains in 2017, Liz Dreyfus, just to one country, India, using blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is also a massive thing that will drive change in the agri sector. You also look at genetic surgeries. That's another thing that is going to drive massive change. But the question you ask yourself with regards to genetic surgery is it going to be helpful, or will it cause more harm to the sector? Because you are actually taking the natural form of food and you are turning it into artificial thing. Okay, but we actually need the natural food, which is very good for us. But that question can be answered by many of us who feel that we should maintain the natural state of the food that we eat. Social media as well, that will help in driving markets as well. You can find a lot of young people these days who have never been to any farm, and they call themselves farmers. All they do is use social media to create markets for produce. They can actually buy from farmers and connect with consumers and clients on the internet without even having physical contact with farmers and clients. So these are areas I feel that agriculture is going to take a new turn, and it's going to be interesting. But my last point will be, we will need to be very careful on the way that we use all of these activities and technologies, so that we don't burn our fingers. If we use them in the right proportion and in the right way, with our conscience, and putting in mind that we still need to retain nature, then that will be good for us. But if we go extreme to say, okay, the food we eat should be grown by robots and robotics and drones, and I wonder what will become of the food that we eat in future. So I want to leave us with those points. And I believe that those of us who have interest in the agri space will think along this line and be able to submit their own opinion towards helping to reshape agriculture, food chains, and markets in the right manner. I want to thank you. I want to thank Covenant University for this opportunity, and I wish you a very successful conference, even as we move to the second day. Thank you.
Agriculture reshaping food chain, retail, marketing, and procurement in sustaining Africa's development. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir. Really appreciate that. Talking about genetic surgery or genetic modified foods, I want to believe those are some sub-themes that will be touched upon at the technical session during the breakout session. For those that will be privileged to be part of that, it will be another forum for us to learn something new about that sector. I want to thank every of our presenters of this afternoon session and those for the morning session for adding value to our knowledge base, for contributing to the building of the Africa we want. However, before we shut down for today, I want us to know that we shall be converging here again tomorrow morning at exactly 900 hours, when we shall be opening up day 2 of the 2020 ICADI conference. We shall be taking presentation from Professor Olubukola Owigbe, who shall be giving us the welcome remarks. Then Mr. Olushola Amuson, Mr. Johnson Abali, Dr. Femi Oguremi, Mr. Olusegun Odonaya shall be presenting at different fora tomorrow. I want to say thank you very much as I invite the chair, ICADI 2020, for the closing remark of day 1.
Thank you very much, the moderator, for this afternoon session. I want to especially thank every of our presenters today, starting from the morning session where the ICADI 2020 kicked off. I deeply appreciate you are honoring our invitation and for the great things you have brought on board in the course of ICADI 2020. I want to say thank you to all the presenters, especially the presenters for this afternoon, starting from Professor Peter Okebukola, the former Executive Secretary of NUC, Mrs. Foluke Michael. I say thank you so much, and of course our own Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi, Honorable Dr. Mrs. Patricia Ania Kalati, all the way from Malawi, Mr. Lawrence Afere. Please, thank you so much for being part of ICADI 2020. We recognize all of you and the effort you have put in place to be part of this. Thank you, and thank you so much.